Some dictators did not fall in battle. They fell waiting instead. A convoy stops on a coastal road. A courtroom is set up on Christmas morning. A phone camera catches guards taunting a condemned man in his final minutes. And outside one capital, guards stood by a bedroom door for hours, too afraid to knock. Gaddafi's last convoy. Insert Libya. On the coastal road east of the city, a convoy of vehicles tries to break out of the last district still under Muammar Gaddafi's control. It is October 20th, 2011. NATO aircraft spot the convoy and strike it from above. Survivors scatter into drainage pipes and roadside culverts near the highway, and local fighters close in within minutes. A group of armed men finds Gaddafi hiding in a concrete drainage pipe, wounded and disoriented. Video recorded on mobile phones shows him alive, surrounded, pulled through the crowd. Within the hour, he is dead. Gaddafi had ruled Libya for 42 years, longer than most of the fighters who captured him had been alive. Human rights investigators later opened an inquiry into how he died, and it never produced a settled answer. Some witnesses describe a beating that spiraled out of control. Others describe a stray shot fired in the chaos. Libyan officials at the time gave one account. Outside investigators gave another. No inquiry ever closed that gap. To this day, no one fully agrees on the exact moment Muammar Gaddafi's rule actually ended. Ceausescu's Christmas trial. Nicolae Ceausescu and his wife Elena wake up on Christmas morning of 1989 inside a military base in Târgoviște, Romania, guarded by soldiers who no longer answer to him. Days earlier, protests against his government had spread across Romania quicker than his security forces could get a handle on, and the couple had fled the capital by helicopter, only to be captured by an army that had turned against them. Officers at the base hastily assemble a military tribunal. Within hours, that tribunal convicts both of them on charges including genocide and sentences them to death the same day. Soldiers lead the couple outside to a courtyard wall almost immediately after the verdict. There is no appeal, no delay, almost no gap between the sentence and its execution. Romanian state television broadcasts footage of the aftermath to a country that had known no other leader for 24 years. For many Romanians watching that Christmas broadcast, it is the first hard proof that his government has actually fallen. The entire process, from capture to execution, takes only a few days, one of the fastest recorded removals of a national leader in modern European history. Idi Amin's quiet ending. What happens to a dictator that no country wants to put on trial? Idi Amin ruled Uganda through the 1970s with a level of violence historians still argue over how to fully count. When Tanzanian forces and Ugandan exiles push him from power in 1979, he does not stand in a courtroom. He flees instead, first to Libya, then to Saudi Arabia, where the government grants him refuge on the condition that he stays out of politics. That refuge lasts for decades. On August 16, 2003, Amin dies in a hospital in Jeddah from kidney failure, after weeks in a coma. Even his age at death is not fully settled, since his birth year was never officially recorded, and estimates range across several years in the 1920s. No tribunal ever charges him. No firing squad, no sentence, no crowd outside a prison gate. Reporters covering his death struggle to confirm even basic details, because Saudi authorities release almost no information about his final months. If Uganda had ever gotten the trial many of its citizens wanted, this chapter would read completely differently. Instead, one of the century's most violent rulers simply runs out of time in a hospital bed, far from anyone he had harmed. Mussolini's failed escape. By April 28, 1945, Benito Mussolini has run out of country to hide in. He and a small group, including his companion Clara Petacci, try to slip into Switzerland disguised among retreating German soldiers near Lake Como, Italy. Italian partisans are checking every vehicle on that road. A partisan patrol recognizes Mussolini despite the disguise and pulls him from the truck. He is held overnight, then driven to the village of Giulino di Mezzegra the next morning. There, partisans carry out an execution ordered in the name of the resistance, an act most historians credit to Commander Walter Audizio, though even his role has been disputed for decades. Mussolini had led Italy for over 20 years and dragged it into a war it could not win. His body, along with Petacci's and more than a dozen other fascists, is driven to Milan and hung upside down in the same square where partisans had themselves been publicly executed the year before. Crowds that once cheered his speeches gather by the thousands to see the opposite ending, filling the square within hours of the body's arrival. Stalin's locked door. Joseph Stalin is alone at his dacha outside Moscow on the night of March 1, 1953, working late as he usually does. His guards live by strict rules. No one enters his room uninvited, no matter how long the light stays on. Hours pass with no call, no bell, no sound from inside. A guard finally finds the nerve to open the door and finds Stalin collapsed on the floor, unable to speak, in the middle of a massive stroke. Even then, no one moves quickly. His inner circle, men who had spent decades fearing him, argue over what to do and delay calling proper medical help for most of the night. Some historians believe that hesitation cost him hours that mattered. Stalin had held power in the Soviet Union for around 29 years, and historians still debate the full death toll of his rule, with estimates ranging from several million to 20 million people or more, counting famine, purges, and forced labor. He finally dies on March 5th, 4 days after collapsing, with the same men who had feared to open his door now standing over his bed. No one can say for certain how those final hours might have gone if anyone in that house had been willing to knock sooner. Saddam's recorded execution. By December 2006, Saddam Hussein's fate has already moved from the battlefield into a courtroom. An Iraqi tribunal had convicted him of crimes against humanity connected to the killing of villagers in Dujail back in 1982, following his capture by American forces 3 years earlier. His execution is scheduled for December 30th, time just before the start of the Eid holiday. Officials allow the hanging to be filmed for an official government record, meant only for limited release. Someone inside the execution chamber uses a mobile phone to record a second unauthorized video, including guards taunting Saddam Hussein in his final moments, and that unofficial footage reaches the internet within hours, watched by millions far faster than the sanitized official version ever could be. Saddam had led Iraq through wars, uprisings, and purges since seizing full power back in 1979, right up until his capture in 2003. No official investigation has ever confirmed who inside that chamber made the recording, or whether it was planned before the rope was even in place. Pol Pot's final verdict. Deep in the jungle near An Long Veng, Cambodia, Pol Pot is living under armed guard in a camp controlled by the remaining leadership of the Khmer Rouge movement he once led. The year is 1998. His own former comrades, led by a Khmer Rouge commander known as Ta Mok, had put him on trial the year before and sentenced him to house arrest, not execution, a decision that stunned observers who expected something closer to justice for the Cambodian genocide. On April 15th, Pol Pot dies quietly in his sleep, reportedly 72 years old, just as journalists were arranging to reach the camp for an interview. Cambodian officials cremate his body within days, on a pile of old tires and scrap, denying him any formal burial or grave marker. No international court ever gets the chance to try him, even though an estimated 1.5 to 2 million Cambodians died under his rule in the late 1970s. A toll historians still rank among the deadliest of the entire 20th century relative to the size of the country. Franco's endless goodbye. Francisco Franco's body is giving out faster than his government can manage the news. By November of 1975, he had ruled Spain since the end of its civil war in 1939, one of the longest single-man governments in modern Western Europe. That autumn, doctors keep him alive through a series of operations, treating heart failure, internal bleeding, and infection one crisis at a time, in a hospital room crowded with equipment and family. State broadcasts keep describing his condition as stable, even as it clearly is not, and ordinary Spaniards start reading each bulletin for what it leaves out. Doctors confirm Franco has died in a Madrid hospital on November 20th, after weeks that some Spaniards later call the longest death watch in modern Europe. Spanish television carries the news to a generation that had never known any other head of state, 36 years and counting. Official statements about the exact time of death changed more than once before settling on a final version. Had the government released a single, consistent account from the start, Historians say the record of that night might look very different from the one Spain eventually got. Hitler's last order. Could the most documented regime of the 20th century still end with a death historians argue over? By late April 1945, Adolf Hitler is living underground in the Führer bunker beneath Berlin, while Soviet troops fight their way through the city above him, street by street. He marries his companion Eva Braun in the bunker on April 29th, then dictates a final political testament to his secretary. On April 30th, Hitler and Eva Braun retreat into a private room and die together, by most accounts through poison and a single gunshot. Staff in the bunker follow his standing order and burn both bodies in a shell crater in the garden above, using gasoline carried down in cans days earlier. Soviet forces reach the bunker within days and recover charred remains, which Soviet pathologists examine and keep secret for decades. Hitler's regime had caused the deaths of tens of millions of people across a war that lasted nearly 6 years. Because Soviet authorities withheld their findings from the public for so long, rumors that Hitler had somehow escaped Berlin circulated for years afterward. Even with a body, dental records, and staff who watched him die, doubt followed his ending longer than almost any other name on this list. If you like this video, subscribe for more like it.